Hi everyone, my name is Helen Dion. I am the marketing manager for SWK Technologies. I'd like to welcome you to our Automating the Warehouse and Shop Floor webinar presented by Cody at Scanco. A little housekeeping before we get started. Everyone has been placed on mute to keep the background noise down. However, you can submit any questions you have throughout the webinar. To submit a question, look for the question section in your GoToWebinar pod on the right side of your screen. We will answer all questions at the end of the presentation. We are recording the presentation and they will be distributed to all attendees as well as absentees tomorrow. Lastly, please take a moment at the end of the presentation to take our short one-question survey. So with that said, we really appreciate you taking the time out of your busy day today to attend our webinar. SWK is dedicated to providing our customers the knowledge, tools, and support you need to find an easier way to run your business and get the most out of your solutions. So whether you're just here to learn or you're actually searching for a solution that fits your business needs, we're thrilled that you were able to join us, and we'd like to encourage you to just ask any questions or provide feedback so we can continue to improve our webinar service. Lastly, as a quick reminder, we are constantly sharing updates and software tips and tricks on our social media channels, so we encourage you to follow us on Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. So without further ado, Scanco has put together a really great presentation for you today, so let's get started. Cody, I'm going to pass it on over to you.
Perfect. Thanks, Helen. So as Helen said, what we're going to do today is take you through what we're calling the connected warehouse and shop floor. We want to spend a little bit of time talking about changes, some trends we're seeing, and most importantly, solutions and how you can benefit from those. So for those that may not be familiar with Scanco, we are actually celebrating our 30th year this year. So we're super excited that we have been able to work with thousands and thousands of companies like yours over the past 30 years, constantly innovating our software, innovating our processes, our solutions to deliver, really industry-leading distribution manufacturing automation. And of course, working with partners like SWK allows us to have that complete end-to-end solution and really provide someone to go to for you all that can help your business grow. So we specialize in that distribution and manufacturing side. And we're going to spend a couple minutes today talking about 4 different topics. Number 1 is going to be the warehouse. What's going on with warehousing these days? Why is it happening? And why do I need to update my warehouse processes? Then we'll transition over to the manufacturing. So for those of you that have manufacturing, whether it's something as simple as bill of materials, or you're going to more complex processes, some make-to-stock processes, make-to-order, process manufacturing, we have a lot of flexible solutions that can scale with different manufacturing processes. And then we'll cover a little bit about compliance and some of the unique challenges that may be required for your industry. And then big data. Big data is basically a simple way to say that we have a huge collection of data. And what do we do with this, and how can it benefit us? So when it comes to the warehouse, I think one of the things, and you've probably heard it from other sources, but it's one thing that we really hear every day, and that's our customers are fairly demanding. So when we're looking at warehouse distribution processes, we're hearing the same things over and over from our customers. My customers rolled out new regulations. They have new requirements on how I need to stack pallets or labels I need to print, how fast the orders need to show up, as well as what information do they need before they even place an order. They want real-time access to my inventory. They want all of my transactions to flow through EDI. So just because we're talking about warehouse automation today, and manufacturing automation, it really is going to spread into a lot of the other solutions that you're using with your ERP. So one of the things I always kind of like to do to put this in perspective is, where's this issue coming from? And it took me a while to realize this, but really, just looking at my personal shopping habits, I've been able to, I'd say kind of work with my customers in a different way because I realize when I go on Amazon or I go to Best Buy or Chewy.com, I'm only expecting to buy items if I'm getting 1 day or 2 day free shipping. And if that item doesn't show up correct, I'm not happy. And even if it shows up correct and I decide I don't like it, I want to be able to return it and get a different one again in 1 or 2 days. So it's really consumers like us that are, causing this trend and making our customers to our business be demanding. It's kind of trickling down. And as a vendor to Amazon or a vendor to a big box or a local distributor, you're going to be held to those standards that their customers are holding them to. So a couple of things that I find interesting, some stats from a couple different industry sources. 30% of customers will not return if they receive one incorrect order. So 30%, it obviously sounds like it could be worse, but when you think about that, 1/3 of your orders that goes out that's incorrect could ultimately lose that customer forever. So you want to make sure, that these orders are correct. Going to that speed and the availability of the items, 42% of consumers have said they will just completely abandon their online shopping cart if they get to the checkout process and delivery options are too slow. And then, of course, 89% feel free shipping is important. So I definitely, can relate to these. I understand, why 89%, why that number is so high. I think we all love free shipping, but I don't think we always look at, what does that really mean? So that has to be paid for somehow. We're typically saving money by buying online or by buying, through different sources. So once again, that's something that's being passed down to you. They're going to want you to drop ship items to reduce the number of touches. They don't want to bring it in and then send it to the customer. They're just going to have you do that directly. So when you start looking at this, you start realizing really where, a lot of these, I have on here problems. We like to call them opportunities, but where a lot of these opportunities are coming from. So just looking at these 3 quick stats, you can see why it's so important to start looking at how you're operating in your warehouse. Now, this isn't even diving in to customer satisfaction, really, of, what is it truly worth? What is that customer worth? 1 missed order might not sound like much, 2 might be okay, but if it's recurring or the orders are too slow or you're constantly back ordering when they send a PO over, you need to start looking at what's that customer worth to you? How much do I truly have on the line? So the next piece that we hear time and time again in the warehouse world, it's definitely going to be accuracy and trust of inventory. So I touched on this a little bit before of why it's so important to make sure that your inventory is correct, because you have so many solutions that might be touching your ERP or your inventory system. So any sort of other integrated solutions, whether it's EDI, e-commerce, shipping solutions, they're all relying on that data to be correct. So we want to make sure that the data that's in our system is accurate at all times, and we're not waiting for any sort of long uploads or changes in that data. What I think is really surprising here is that 80% of the customers we talk to do not trust their inventory. So 8 out of the 10 calls that I get on, and I'm assisting companies like yours going through their inventory processes, going through what they're doing today, 80% of those are telling me, I just don't trust what I have today. So it's kind of nice because you're not alone. You might feel like you don't have, your ships pointed in the right direction, and that it's too large to turn that ship, but just know you're not alone. This is what we do. We work with tons of customers just like you to help them do that. So just under half of our customers are using other integrated solutions. So as I mentioned before, integrated solutions could be, e-commerce platforms. It could be EDI solutions. And those are, of course, dealing with your inventory as well. So when your customer logs into a website or your vendor logs into your B2B portal, you want to make sure what they're seeing is accurate. Or when you're sending an EDI document back or a confirmation that what was sent back is truly accurate and you're going to be able to commit to what was promised. And then, of course, every customer we talk to wants accurate inventory. So it seems like a kind of a silly stat to put on here of 100% of customers want accurate inventory. It sounds like that's a no-brainer. But why we talk about that is referencing back to the 80% that don't trust their inventory. So every customer we talk to wants it, but 80% of them are nowhere near having that happen at this time. So there's a lot of opportunities for you, to fix the inventory. And there's a couple simple things that we're seeing on how to fix this. So some of the, what we're calling trending solutions that we're seeing here. The first one is integrating your ERP inventory systems with a WMS. So typically, a lot of systems are separate. So you might have your inventory or your ERP, your core financials, separate from your WMS, or inventory is not even tied to core financials and it's in the WMS on completely separate databases. But combining these into one solution has obviously a lot of benefits. So reporting is super important. That's going to give us the ability to extract all the data out of one source. Of course, making sure that all the transactions are tying back to each other. So your costing is always correct because we have links between bringing our inventory in, where it's impacting our GL account. So audits are going to have a lot more information with less work. But just having everything in that single database is going to be invaluable. You're not having to maintain multiple databases. You don't need to worry about, a nightly or weekly, hourly uploads between two databases and possible corrupt data. It's going to be a very streamlined operation by having everything in that one single database. Now, talking about more advanced transactions, this is definitely what we're seeing. So our customers that we're dealing with, and most of you are going to fall in, are going to be in that small, medium-sized business. So you're not an enterprise customer. You're not Amazon that needs robots. You don't need to invest millions into new racking and robots and picking solutions. You need to be able to operate and grow your business by using more efficient processes so you can scale without bringing on those extra bodies, so you can meet your customers' demands. And a lot of that can be done through advanced warehouse management, integrated into your ERP, integrated with that WMS solution. And what it's going to allow is stuff that typically, especially in like the Sage 100 world that we're revolving around, that you wouldn't usually hear about, of license plating, of tracking multiple items on one pallet and tying that to a license plate number, or tracking containers from overseas on their way to us and receiving those in one simple transaction. Having that inventory on those containers on my books for financial and auditing purposes. So we can allow that type of traceability to happen and still keep it completely integrated into your existing ERP solution. And then the third, probably most important piece on the warehouse is the use of mobile technology. So introducing technology into the warehouse has always been a challenge. When I'm talking to a customer and we're working through their processes and how we're going to be able to help, it's not uncommon for them to ask, what am I not asking, or what is the number one reason a solution like this would not succeed? And that answer for us has always been adoption. Getting the users in the warehouse to adopt the technology has always been a challenge. In the past 6 to 7 years, since we kind of pioneered using iPods, iOS, Android devices in the warehouse, we have seen that turn around quite a bit. The users, the more smartphones had been adopted in the market and they started using smartphones in their everyday lives, this has become much, much easier. We're equipping them with the same operating system that they're probably using every day. So the learning curve is a lot less. They kind of value that interaction more. and it allows those mobile devices to be rolled out in the warehouse much quicker and much more efficiently. So going from warehouse and kind of switching gears into the manufacturing. Manufacturing is can be a lot to work with. We could probably spend 3 or 4 hours going through some of the manufacturing processes, going through problems that we hear on a daily basis. We like to try to consolidate that to 2 or 3 important topics. So as we go back working with our customers, if I were to look at the past 100 customers I talked to, I'd say almost every one of those customers has brought up that they just want to know where their orders are. They're manufacturing items, they're using maybe a bill of material, a work order, a work ticket, whatever you want to call it. They have no idea where that is. So we did a little bit of research, and we found that the average company is spending about 38 hours a week tracking these orders on the floor. So that's someone running around of, okay, hey guys, Granger just called. They want to know where these electric motors are. How many do we have done? Where are the rest of them? What workstation are they in? That type of information is not always simple to find out. So someone, production supervisor, would typically be running around the warehouse, getting on the walkie-talkies, trying to find out where that's at, what the status is. And obviously you can imagine that leads to a lot of wasted time that could be spent performing tasks that are actually revenue generating. And to that point, only about 23%, so a quarter of our production supervisors, know where their jobs are at any given time. So that leaves, essentially 3/4 of production supervisors, as good as they're trying, as hard as they're working, they don't know where all their jobs are. They can't easily just tell you. If CEO walks up and says, Joe, I need to know where this is, they're going to have to research that. They don't have that information at their fingertips. And then about half of the customers that we work with on a daily basis don't know their true lead times. And that's obviously very important because that lead time has a lot of information tied to it. It's not necessarily just telling the customer, I can have this ready for you in 2.5 or 3 weeks. Knowing lead times on items we're manufacturing and having all of this information, we can utilize that with our automation processes and products to work backwards and make sure we're creating POs ahead of time. All of our raw materials are here. There's a lot of information that we can be proactive about if we know the true lead times. And we're only seeing about 50% of our customers know what it truly takes to create their items. So there's also a lot of, kind of side problems there, a lot of lost labor. So a lot of labor variances and having those inaccurate labor variances and not knowing why, and we're not reconciling everything properly, can also lead to the cost of our items being off. So data entry has always been an issue in the manufacturing world. If you're sending a traveler with your items now, which most of our customers do, it's not uncommon for those to be lost. If they're not lost, I'm sure the handwriting that's on those is immaculate, and you can read everything they're writing down and every lot number, and there's no question as to what they entered onto that traveler. So when you're facing these issues and that traveler makes it back to you, you may not understand everything that's on there. So as you're doing all of the data entry back into your manufacturing software, which based on my experience, most manufacturers are probably just using Excel right now if they haven't implemented a true manufacturing solution. We're typing all this information back into Excel or maybe into our work order or job ops module in Sage. But we're typically seeing 2 people doing that, so about 80 hours a week. And those are full-time positions for a lot of our companies. Now, there is also a large majority of the companies that don't quite spend that 80 hours on data entry for smaller manufacturing companies. This is just kind of an average. And then 13 hours a week searching for those lost travelers or recreating them. So it's not uncommon if they are lost that we have to recreate these and go back and make sure that we have the accurate information. And we're typically seeing those positions about $15 an hour. So just there, you know, in this example at 93 hours at $15 an hour, there's a substantial amount of money that can be saved just off data entry. And that's assuming everything that they're typing in is correct. There's another level we could get into on, you know, 1 in every 243 keystrokes is an error. So, you know, probably I'd say 2 to 3 out of 10 work order entries, if you're using work order in Sage, could be incorrect. There could be something wrong, the wrong lot number, the wrong quantity. And that might be something we don't discover until hours, days, weeks, months later, if it even shows up as an issue. So there's a couple pieces on the manufacturing that we're seeing customers implement. Manufacturing automation. So when you hear Scanco talk about manufacturing automation, we are talking about automating more of the manufacturing processes along with those processes inside of Sage. So those are going to be solutions that we implement inside Sage that will cover a lot of your purchasing requirements I had mentioned earlier. You know, let's auto generate some POs so we have enough raw materials to create this work order. We have advanced scheduling that can schedule based on capacity of your work centers. So there's a lot of pieces that don't really even get into that whole mobile side on the shop floor yet, that you can probably get 70 to 80% of your efficiencies just from automating this inside Sage. And you could still do manual data entry if you wanted to start out. So keeping all of this together, let's say you're using Sage 100, you're using a Scanco warehouse, you're using Scanco manufacturing solutions. So now your entire company from financials to distribution to manufacturing is all in one platform. The analytics are very easy to extract, so you're able to make smarter decisions. You're able to make sure that you have all of that information at your fingertips. And most importantly, it's all accurate because it's all tied to each other. There's no syncing of data back and forth and hoping that the right information gets into the right area. Now, the shop floor automation is that data collection side. That's where we start automating, sending down a barcoded receiver, or maybe we go completely paperless on the shop floor. We can set up fixed mount or mobile terminals in the warehouse. So if you have a workstation and you already have a computer there, we could run off of that, or we could have a rugged handheld, or you might put like one kiosk in the middle of 4 or 5 workstations, and that's going to allow your users to track everything in real time. As they're using components, we can track those components to specific work orders or work tickets. We can track the steps they're on, how long someone's been working on it, how many people are working on it. Having all of this information, of course, is going to lead to better visibility, and the accuracy is going to be there because we're able to use barcode technology or RFID even, if you wanted to go down that road, to make sure everything we're doing is correct. It's the right items for the right work order. We capture the right lot numbers, serial numbers, etc. Now, compliance is a topic that I don't think gets talked about enough, really in the manufacturing or the warehouse world, and it's a broad subject. So I'm just going to kind of go off some of the things that we hear. We're not going to get into heavy detail, but it's just more food for thought on, you know, if any of these apply to you, how can we help out here? So we have a lot of industry-specific solutions. So over these past 30 years, we've built up, you know, kind of some niche markets, whether it's food processors, medical, device companies, gas and oil, pharmaceutical companies. We have a lot of different companies that face unique regulations. So we have pieces built into our softwares that will actually assist you. So there's a couple examples in the food industry and even pharmaceuticals. Expiration dates are very important. We have an entire solution built around tracking expiration dates lot and serial number. So you could actually have a serialized item with a lot number and an expiration. It's going to allow you that kind of extra level of traceability that, of course, is important through that entire process. We are tracking every lot number that goes into a finished good. So you can run recall reports. You have a lot of analytics there that you're going to be able to utilize. The medical device companies. So any of you medical device companies that are listening, you're probably familiar with the requirements that have rolled out slowly for class 1, class 2, 3 devices from the FDA that requires UDI traceability. They're using a couple unique barcodes, HIBCC or GS1 standards. We have solutions designated around those. And then in the oil and gas industries, we've done some unique things as far as repackaging bulk products, handling bulk products. So if you're kind of sitting here listening, thinking, this sounds great, but I have a very specific use case, we've probably encountered it and most likely have a solution to be able to help out for that. And then most importantly, and this isn't industry specific, would be what I call the independent compliance. So that's going to be non-government regulatory compliance issues or just vendor requirements. So you may have a certain customer that requires a UCC 128 label to be placed in the exact way with the barcode exactly a 1/4 inch to the right and 3/4 inch from the top. And if it's not there, you're getting charged back. So we're able to assist, printing these labels. If you're using like the Mapadoc EDI solution, we can trigger that during your packing process. There's a lot of things that we do there. And then, of course, we provide certified material issues. So if you're ISO, if you have QSF, any sort of other independent compliance or regulations that you need to adhere to, we're definitely able to help out on those pieces. So as we're going through here, one of the things that you've heard me say quite a few times is analytics. There's a lot of information, and that kind of leads us to what you might hear people talking about big data. So what is it? It's not, it's not a mystery. It's not some crazy philosophy that we don't quite understand, that is some new technology. Simply means we have a lot of data for specific use. So these are just a couple examples of the data that you're collecting every day during these transactions. So labor, material issues, your sales orders, purchase orders, variances, lot numbers, serial numbers, quantities, the machine they were working on, the employee that was working on it. All of this information is going into a database on your system. So we're collecting everything, time-stamping everything down to the second. There's a lot of information there. So it's awesome to have that information. The most important question is, what should we do with it? When we're asked this, it's pretty simple. You want to use that data, improve your processes to make your employees better. It's going to make your company better, and then your customers are going to be happier. So it's pretty easy. We're going to revamp or modify or just enhance processes that you have through all of your inventory and manufacturing touches today. Collect the data, analyze the data, know what to do with it to make smarter decisions moving forward. And then ultimately that's going to lead to your customers being happy. So all of that's awesome, right? Cool looking slides, but all anyone really cares about is, how can you help me? So this is Scanco. This is what we do. I've mentioned on this slide, we provide industry-leading consulting software solutions specific to the warehouse world, specific to that distribution model, specific to manufacturing. So you're going to be able to rely on us, our 30 years of experience, our 75 employees, to work with you, make sure that these processes are correct. And, these 4 big pieces that we essentially went over today. First thing we want to do is automate. We're going to automate all of your processes from that first raw material coming into your warehouse until you manufacture that last item and send it out. Now, that might sound like a dream, and it might be, so maybe we want to start with one transaction. Let's just automate physical counts this year. We'll automate receipts next year. The beauty of this is completely scalable, so if you're not ready to jump in, make that huge leap, you can start with a scalable solution. We're going to also introduce mobile technology to make sure that you're ahead of that technology curve in your industry, that you're using either what your competitors are using or what your competitors want to use. And then we're going to make sure that all of this is completely integrated. So we're on that same platform. So we have all of this information. And most importantly, we know what to do with that information. So with those analytics, learning what's truly happening in your operation is going to be vital and allow you to have that information to improve and operate. And moving forward, you're going to have a much leaner operation, a lot more efficient, possibly without hiring any extra staff as you scale. So that's kind of what we're seeing. That's what we're hearing. And really the biggest challenges, there's a lot more in the world of distribution. There's a lot more in the world of manufacturing. We just like to kind of go over, here's the biggest pieces, here's what we're hearing most common. So if there are pieces that you are hoping to hear about or something that's unique to you, you can always reach out to your SWK account manager or sales@scanco.com. We can get in touch, have a call, see how that works, and take it from there. So with that, Helen, do we have any questions to go over today?
Thanks, Cody. That was great. No questions yet, but let's give it a few more seconds so people have a chance to digest and then pose any questions that they might have, okay?
Perfect. So I either put everyone to sleep or I answer their questions as we know. So either one's a win. I got them a nap at work or I answered what they needed.
I think it's the latter. So nothing is coming in, but as Cody mentioned, if you have any questions that come up as you start to think about this a little bit more, feel free to reach out to your account manager or Scanco directly. You will also have a contact information provided for you in our follow-up email tomorrow. So you'll be able to reach out to SWK directly that way. And I think we do have one comment from Marilyn saying that you are awesome, Cody. So there you
awesome.
go.
Thank you.
At least one person was awake.
you're awesome also, Marilyn.
I would agree. Okay, well, I think that concludes today's webinar. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to contact SWK or Scanco, and we would be happy to point you in the direction of someone who can provide more information for you. So thanks for joining and have a great rest of your day.